Hi, welcome back. This is Eric with Painting Business Pro, and today I'm going to be kind of running you guys through production, actually delivering on the services you're promising clients. But before we get into that, I just want to recap kind of where we've come from so far. So in the first video, we talked about why the painting business is a good business to start, why I helped 10 of my friends start a painting business, because it's simple, it's lucrative, and if you set it up right, you can make a whole lot of money. So that's why we started there. And then in the second video we talked about where a lot of painters spend a lot of their time, and where a lot of people waste a lot of time that you don't need to waste. So we talked about how to really cut down on the time that you're spending in your business so you can work on growing your business. In the third video we talked about marketing, and the different opportunities there are for marketing. And then in the fourth video we talked about sales and just about putting your customer before the sale. And when you really care more about your customer than you do about making the sale, you can be much better than all the other competition out there. We also talked about making a really good sales process, which we're going to get into more in the next couple videos. So that leads us one last thing here, which is production, which is we've already gotten the lead from our marketing efforts. We've already made the sale from doing a really good sales process. And now we've got a client who's given us a deposit, and we need to actually get their house painted. So this part of the whole business is where most painters really fall short. And even a lot of the people I know who run really good companies, this is really the place where people end up spending most of their time. This is usually the biggest bottleneck to people growing their business is production, because it can take up a whole lot of your time. If you don't set up a really good system around production, which we're going to talk about systems also in the next couple videos, but if you don't set up a really good system for your production, it can be an overwhelming amount of work. It'll take a good crew with 2 to 3 guys working on it, anywhere from 3 to 4 days to finish a job. So you could imagine if you're running a $500,000, to $1 million company, you can have quite a few people working on job sites all at once, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong with production. If you don't set up a really nice, elegant system like I'm going to show you. So there's 2 ways that you can kind of go about this. So the first way is you can hire employees. Now how this is going to work is just posting ads places. People submitting their resume to you looking for work. But mostly it's posted on Craigslist or other employment services to find people who are looking for painting jobs. I guess the upside to this is you can have a lot more control, or perceived control over your production. I actually don't think you have as much control when you manage employees, but some people think that if you have employees, you have more control over your job site and you can make sure things go smoothly. So anyways, you can hire employees. The downside to hiring employees is it's a lot of work, honestly. It's a lot of work to hire employees, it's a lot of work to train employees, it's a lot of work to manage employees, and then it's a lot of money to pay employees because of payroll taxes, which are a whole lot of fun. And it's just expensive. Employees are expensive because they make a lot of mistakes, and if they go way over budget on a house, you still have to pay them. It's kind of a difficult situation. So we don't want to do that. I would strongly urge you not to hire employees to produce your jobs. What we prefer here is to subcontract. Sorry, that's kind of small. Subcontract. So what subcontracting is basically there's a ton of painting companies out there, okay? But there's a lot of painting companies that all they do is paint. They don't do marketing and they don't do sales, but they'll paint houses for half of what customers pay. So, for example, when you're doing sales, once in a while you'll go into an estimate, and your competition will be like $1,500 for the price of the job, and your price is like $2,800 or $3,200. So you get way undercut. Those are the people that we want to hire to do the painting for us. Because we can still sell jobs for $3,000 because that's a competitive rate for homeowners with other companies, just like the company we're setting up. So a lot of the big, larger companies are going to have higher prices, and that's what makes them bigger and more reputable, and that's how you know about them. But there's a ton of companies out there that charge really low prices, but you never hear about them because they don't market, they don't sell, they just paint. A lot of times they have just a white van with no markings on it, and literally their business model is to subcontract from other companies. So how that works is basically I post ads just like I do for hiring employees, but I'm hiring subcontractors. So I actually post ads to find subcontractors, and I actually pay them just 50% of the job. So when we sell a job for $3,000, I pay my subcontractor $1,500 to do that job. And that covers all the labor, all the materials, and pays them. Because a lot of times these are business owners, and they run anywhere from just them and one person to maybe even running 3 or 4 crews, depending on the different subcontractor. So I pay them 50%, which frankly is probably less than you'll end up spending over here, because the other downside to doing employees is that not only do you spend probably 35% paying your employees and another couple percent paying payroll taxes, and then you also are going to have to pay for all the materials on the job, which is going to be anywhere from like 10 to 17% depending on the job. So when you're hiring employees, the biggest downside, I think, is that you have a ton more costs to manage. Because you have to manage their hourly rate times how many hours they work, plus any payroll taxes, plus you got to manage the materials on the job. It's a lot of expenses to manage. Versus subcontracting, I have one expense to manage. It's 50%. That's it. So actually, I know some people who went the employee route, and in my experience, this has actually been more profitable and it's been easier. So what's really nice about this is, so once we agree on the job, so we've hired a subcontractor, we've agreed on a price of a job to do for $1,500. So all we do is we call the customer and we make sure that they have their colors picked out and their date scheduled. And as soon as the job is ready, we schedule a start date with the customer. We say, okay, we're going to start next Tuesday. And then on Monday, I meet with the subcontractor. I give them a folder with all of the information about the job. They go over to the house on Tuesday. They start the job. They finish the job. They collect the final check for me. And then they go to my bank. They deposit the check into my bank account for me. And then they come and pick up their check from us. So literally, the only thing that we're actually involved with when we subcontract is setting up the job, which means picking colors, getting approval from homeowners associations, if you have those around the country, and really just preparing the customer and the scheduling, the start date. The only other thing we have to do is hire and maintain our subcontractors. So I want to talk just really briefly about hiring and maintaining subcontractors, because it's actually pretty easy to do. So the first thing that I want to point to with hiring and maintaining subcontractors is that there's a ton of them out there, and there's not a ton of good ones. So you are going to have to sift through quite a bit of people. So I usually post an ad on Craigslist, just saying, hey, we're a growing company, and we're looking for subcontractors, for people to subcontract to, and if you're interested and you have insurance, please contact us here. I'll get about 50 or 60 responses sometimes from an ad like that, and when I get 50 or 60 responses, I'll probably delete about 80% of them, just based on the response. Because what's important to me in hiring a subcontractor is someone who has good communication skills and is professional, because a lot of times the way people respond to an ad is also going to be kind of the way that they operate their business. So we always want to make sure to really sift through and find the right people. Once I've sifted down to about those 10 contractors that I'm actually interested in meeting with, I'll set up meetings and I'll just go and meet with them and talk to them and use my best judgment really, whether or not I think that they'd be someone I'd like to work with. And then on the very first job, I'll probably hand off the folder to them and actually drop into the job site a couple times just to see how it's going, because I like to kind of keep a close watch on the first couple jobs that a subcontractor does, just to make sure they're doing really good work. And once they've done one job, then I give them another, and then another, and then another, and I'll keep kind of loading them up with work more and more over time, as long as they're doing a really great job. So in my business now, we're in 3 years now. We have 7 really good subcontractors, and between those 7 subcontractors, we can produce about $1 million in business. So we basically have seven people down here who are all doing all of the production stuff for us, and they're very happy to do so. And why they're very happy to do so is for 2 reasons. And this speaks towards maintaining subcontractors. The first reason that they're totally happy working with us is because we pay them fair. So, we're giving them 50%, but we're pricing the job properly to make sure that 50% is a good amount for them to actually be making to make money. So when my subcontractors come to me and say, hey, I need an extra $150 on this job, or I need an extra $200 on this job, a lot of the times I'll end up giving it to them if I believe the job is underbid. And so that's something you'll kind of have to learn as you go, is like, what is the right price point, because you also want to be sure just not to be taken advantage of by your subcontractors. But I do take care of them and I pay them fairly. And then the second thing, and this is huge, is I pay them right away. So a lot of companies will wait a week or 2 weeks or something to cut all their checks for payroll. I literally, the second a subcontractor finishes the job, they can bring me the check and I'll swap them checks immediately. So they can get paid the day they finish the job, which is incredibly important to subcontractors. So that's really what I would have to say about how to actually manage your production. And we're going to get into how to start to create these systems in the next couple videos. So next video I'm going to talk to you really about creating systems and how important that is for your business and how much of a difference it makes in making your business easy to run. And then we'll also be diving into specifically, what does it really look like as far as our sales system and our production system. Over the next couple videos we'll start to get into a little bit more details about that. So we'll see you soon.